I saw a post on social media last night. My buddy Mark Davis from Dallas had a little bit of a playful, sarcastic response to a Washington Post headline that said, despite opening early, states like Georgia are not seeing any appreciable increase in coronavirus cases. And Mark simply tweeted out, do tell, do tell. You know, obviously, it feels good to be on the right side of this issue. It must feel really bad to be on the wrong side of it. The gloom, doom, the death, the despair. And make no mistake, I never, ever want to come into this studio and act as if we're not going through an agonizing chapter of our nation's history. We're going to have over 100,000 deaths. I think the latest prediction is 113,000 deaths by mid-June. And I am never going to minimize that. We can argue numbers. We can argue data. We know how many lives have been shattered by this. This is a terrible, terrible virus. And we need to have a very realistic approach. Our eyes have to be wide open. We can't play games. But we also know that we've seen a lot of mayors and governors act like, Napoleon Bonaparte in dragging people off to jail for not obeying them. It happened just yesterday in New Jersey. Guy at the gym in New Jersey got handcuffed and arrested for going to a gym. Evidently, they were trying to give tickets to the people in the gym, like summonses, and the guy didn't want to give his information, so the cops slapped the cuffs on him and hauled him away. You know how bad that makes police officers look? I don't think most law enforcement officers want to arrest people for going to a gym in New Jersey. So Americans we are clear-eyed on this. Yeah, there's lots of theories and conspiracy stuff. I get that. But most Americans have a level-headed approach. We're taking this seriously, but we know we are now opening this country up. And when states like Georgia tried to open, they were crucified. Remember the mayors? A couple of mayors in Georgia on with CNN's Sanjay Gupta weeks ago when Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, decided to take the plunge and start trying to cautiously open Georgia. They were the first ones, remember? Well, let me take you down memory lane. Let's go back in time and listen to what the mayors of Mayor Keisha Bottoms and Kermit Boduro said to Sanjay Gupta on CNN.
We're simply not ready to reopen. I mean, we have 62 people on ventilators. I think it's rather imprudent to set dates as opposed to goals.
We close late. We might be opening early, and they're both problems. I mean, we are clear that the virus is still out there. We are clear that we are not ready. It is clear what the guidelines are and that we haven't met them.
As a parent, I am concerned because what I know is that when I look at the data that we receive from our public health department each day, our numbers are going up.
Well, what are they saying today? Because today, actually, literally yesterday, Georgia reached its lowest number of COVID-19 positive patients in the hospital. The lowest since they began reporting the data. They have 986 patients in the hospital. They've seen a 12% decrease in the last week. They're down 12% from week to week. This would be the time that all of the worst case scenarios were being realized. Will the mayors apologize? Will anybody go back and say, well, we were wrong about Georgia? It was so funny because, as I recall, Georgia and Colorado did about the same kind of early reopening. Georgia got crucified. They got eviscerated. Colorado, Governor Polis didn't get any pushback. Wonder what, oh, that's right. Polis is a Democrat and Kemp is the Republican. Kemp is the guy who stole the election from Stacey Abrams, the cape-wearing crusader. Incidentally, Ben Shapiro did a takedown of the Washington Post. They did I couldn't believe it either. I didn't get around to reading it until last night. I saw the pictures of Stacey Abrams. This poor woman thinks she's the governor of Georgia. I think she walks around pretending to be the governor of Georgia. Now, usually when people do that, you recommend a therapist or treatment for that kind of a condition. When you pretend to be something you're not. But in this case, she's walking around acting like voter suppression prevented her from getting elected. It's the highest turnout I think Georgia's ever seen. They had a huge turnout. There wasn't any voter suppression. People didn't want her. And she lost. She's been a state legislator. That's all she's been. And now she thinks she is entitled to be Joe Biden's vice presidential running mate. And let it happen. Please, dear Lord, let it happen. Let Biden pick her, or, are you ready for it? Wait for it. Gretchen Whitmer, the mayor of Michigan. The governor of Michigan. She's being listed, reports say she's been in talks to be Biden's vice presidential running mate. In talks. They're sitting down chatting about it. Please, please let it be Stacey Abrams or Gretchen Whitmer. Do you know how much fun President Trump will have with that? But Ben Shapiro mocked the Washington Post last night over what he called the ridiculous 6,000-word profile of the former Georgia state representative, Stacey Abrams. Ben writes, the media are just absolutely egregious. They'll cover any Democratic narrative in the way that Democrats would like. Stacey Abrams is a non-entity, but she's still being heralded as the next big thing. And honestly, they did, as Ben pointed out, they included a picture of Stacey Abrams that looks as though she's being backlit for a Broadway show. She looks like a magician from Las Vegas. You got to see the picture. Do we have the picture, Pavs? Put it up on the screen. We'll put it up on our streaming video. So if you're watching the show on our YouTube channel, and we encourage you to do that, please subscribe to the Mike Gallagher Show YouTube channel, or you could watch it mikeonline.com. Ben says, slap a top hat and a cane in her hand, and she's going to make a tiger appear or something. It's absurdity. She's going to start singing theme songs from Wicked. It really was. There was smoke, and it was a silhouette, and she's got a cape on, like in a heroic pose. And of course, you think the Washington Post has ever put President Trump in a flattering picture? Ever? They're nuts. They're gone. They've gone berserk. And watching the political shenanigans today, man, oh man, Pelosi keep doubling down. Trump's morbidly obese. He's fat. He's a fatty. Ha ha ha. Fatty, boom balatti. Trump just dismisses her. She's a non-entity. She's a waste of time. And it is all noise. It is all noise. Meanwhile, there's a revelation of Susan Rice. What she did the very last day of the Obama administration regarding Michael Flynn. We got a lot to cover this hour. First, we want to welcome you into the ReliefFactor.com studios and remind you that if you'd like to come on board with us and weigh in on any of this stuff, weigh in on Georgia's good news, really the good news in America. You are noticing that the media isn't really covering the good news, right? You're noticing that they're not nearly as interested as covering the decreasing hospitalizations, the decreasing positive cases, the increased testing, the decreasing deaths. You're noticing that coverage is in scant supply these days, right? I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure you're on board here. Tell me if I'm wrong. As again, we kick things off for a Wednesday. 1-800-655-MIKE.